Hi, I'm Paul Flanders. I'm a retired educator. I taught at Longmont High School since up until 2011. I taught for 33 years. And I'm honored to have you listen today to my idea to improve public education. When I was an undergraduate student at the University of Colorado, I took a course from Dr. Kenneth Boulding, who had quite a national fame for being an economic philosopher. And the first day of class, he wrote on the board, "Anything that exists is possible." And we looked at each other and thought, so what? Of course anything that exists is possible. But that became a theme for his course, and he went on to explain how since Canada became a country in 1837, the border between the United States and Canada has never experienced war. Therefore, peace between two countries is possible. And therefore, because anything that exists is possible, that can be possible for all countries to avoid war. And therefore, world peace is possible. And he applied this idea in all kinds of ways, in all kinds of lessons. What I would like to do today is to point out that we have a number of things in public education that work. We want all children to embrace the opportunity to learn. We would like these children to develop their gifts, and so they can become economically self-reliant and not need government assistance to subsist. We all agree that for our society to benefit from the vast majority of students developing their skills and contributing, making life better for the rest of us. So we're in agreement that we all want our public schools to work well, and we also know several things that work. So I have a simple little idea. Let's take everything that works well and pour our resources into things that work well and not waste our resources on things that don't work. Why don't we have this? We have all this consensus. We know what works. Why isn't there a huge momentum so that we have all these resources? We should be able to pour things into education and be the most powerful education system in the world. But the United States isn't there. So the reason we can't seem to achieve the outcomes on which we all have a consensus is because we haven't taken a pragmatic approach to supporting what works. This is an American idea. American pragmatism has always not worried about the ideology or whether it's conservative or liberal, but we go with what works. And that has served our country throughout its history. So let's just go over what works. We can all agree that kids who have adult guidance, quality adult guidance, are much more likely to succeed in the school system. We all know that if we have quality parenting, that's how we pretty much bank on that in our schools today. Kids who have quality parenting seem to have kids who do their homework, who get to school on time, who pay attention in school. The parents provide a lot of encouragement, a lot of emotional support. And that's really wonderful. It's really special. In our charter schools, probably work better than in generals, because in order to come to a charter school, the parents have to apply, and they have to commit to helping the school, and there's just a proof. In order to get into a charter school, you already have parents who care. So that works, adult guidance, but parents aren't the only form of adult guidance. We have teachers can obviously provide guidance. Counselors can provide guidance. But also we have coaches provide guidance. We have dance instructors. We have youth ministers. We have big brothers. We have an array of programs where adults can help kids in that adult guidance. So we have the resources available. Now, can we maximize the focus so that every single kid gets as much adult guidance as we can possibly afford? All right, what else works? We know efficient resource allocation can be highly beneficial. Again, I'm going to bring up the charter schools because the charter schools have the ability to take the public funding and then focus all that money in their schools. They have the right to manage their school independently from the rest of the school district bureaucracy. And that gives them the freedom to innovate, and that gives them a freedom to maximize their economic resources. It turns out that in the national economy, the businesses that do the best, that have the highest efficiency rate, the highest productivity for investment dollar, are about the small and mid-sized businesses. Businesses somewhere between a couple million to 15 million. If they have that number in revenues, those businesses have the most efficiency, have the highest productivity. Not school districts of hundreds of millions of dollars. A study by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development found that America spends about 66% more on its public education bureaucracy than do other advanced economies. In the last couple decades, the percentage of teachers in the entire national school system is less than half of all the personnel that work in the schools. The education scores and so forth indicate America lags behind many of these advanced economies. So what else works? Teachers. Motivated teachers have the quality of inspiring people. And all of us who have gone to high school or gone on to advanced degrees and so forth can probably point to one or more teachers who made a difference in our lives. An inspiring teacher has that magic and gets that kid to put in extra work, put in extra time. This isn't the case only in the classroom teacher, but also the band instructor who can fire up kids to practice, or the drama teacher, or the coach. All these wonderful coaches can get kids to extend themselves and so forth. So we know that motivated teachers work. And if we can somehow come up with a reallocation of resources where we can get more teachers to become motivated, and that could reach more kids, then we're likely to have more positive outcome in education. Finally, the freedom to compete. We know competition works. You can find different competitive areas where schools compete against schools and kids learn skills much better than they would otherwise. And I'm talking about the athletic programs. Almost every athletic program that you can name, kids voluntarily spend after-school time with coaches who aren't paid all that much, and they learn skills in that field and compete with other schools, and even the last place teams produce wonderful players of that sport because the competition works in a public sector, in a public school model. So we know competition brings out the best in our kids, and what my idea, if we're going to apply all the things that work, is rather simple. I've tried to stay away from words that are ideas that are cause infighting, cause political disagreement, gets people divided, and so we get into huge arguments. We know that doesn't work. We know that hasn't been beneficial. The one word that I've brought up that may raise the hackles of some in the education field is the word charter. And that's because a lot of charter schools are this parallel system where parents who care can bring their kids out of the regular public schools and into the charters. And it's even advertised in a way that escapes the public school system. But that's an acknowledgement or an admission that a lot of our schools don't work, and we're going to let them not work. And all we're going to try to do is give parents a choice to escape from the regular schools. That's not reaching all our kids. That's really not fair. So the idea should be to give the power of a charter school to regular schools. If a regular school can convert to a charter school and get the financing and get the management control, and for every kid that comes into their school, if they can draw more kids to their school, they can get $7,000 or $8,000 more added to their revenue of that school. And they can use that money however they want. They can hire more teachers. They could lower class loads of teachers. If they didn't want to pay for the 66% layers of bureaucracy that America pays over other economies, if they wanted to, they could pick and choose what they would buy from the central administration. It wouldn't be imposed on them. If the charter school wanted to, a regular public school, had say a custodial system that they found to be inefficient, maybe they could outsource that to a private cleaning service and spend less money on what the school district charges for custodial work. If they can make savings that way, every dollar saved can be spent on classroom, can be spent on the teachers. The way to motivate more teachers is to give them a better environment to teach in. If they could lower the class loads, you're going to have more excited teachers. The more excited teachers spreads throughout a staff. The whole school could vibrate with energy. If a school were to bring in 20 extra kids one year and they didn't decide to hire a new teacher with 20 extra kids, say they gave a $1,000 bonus to every member of the staff, every secretary, every person who works at that school, what would the energy be like the next semester? This would be an exciting place, and they would compete, try to do a better job in education than the school down the road, which is in the regular public system and would actually operate at a handicap. But the beauty would be, let every single school, if they see this one school flourishing, then the other schools can go ahead and do the same thing. What you could do is measure everything. Dr. John Goodlad said the best way to measure education is in the different schools, whether they're in a poverty area or a rich area, doesn't matter how much they spend on schools, doesn't matter what the college degree of the parents are, any of that, none of that matters as much as the satisfaction level of all the different stakeholders. So you measure if the students are satisfied. You measure if the teachers are satisfied, the parents are satisfied, the school administrators, and of course the community at large. And if the satisfaction levels are all high, he could predict that you have a quality school. And the other metrics would verify this. The other standardized tests and so forth would verify this. So let's see how this would work. We would have more adult guidance, because I scored this plan according to my high school. I taught for 33 years at Longmont High School in Colorado, and I calculated that we could hire 30 extra teachers and add 30 extra teachers to our staff. That would mean lowering class loads per teacher, making the environment easier, making it not necessarily easier because there's always hard work to do, but more doable. And with that, we could then give each kid a personal coach at school, a personal academic coach for 4 years. And this could be negotiated. You could pick a kid, a student that you got along with, and you would help that kid through times of trouble, or help that kid with that teacher, or help, just like you would talk to the parents a lot. And there would be all this adult guidance would be multiplied for every kid in the school. And more kids would graduate. More and more kids would attend the school. There'd be the daily average attendance would go up like crazy because they'd want to go to school. We would have more efficient resource allocation, not as much spent on bureaucratic overhead. We would obviously have much more motivated teachers who are empowered to help run the school, but also to enliven their classroom, knowing that if they do their job and get excited and reach more kids, that's going to be more attractive for more of the community to send their kids to that school. And the best of all, they have the freedom to compete, which is also the freedom to innovate. We would have schools, different schools. They'd no longer be the same school, the same down the road. Same school in Peoria, Illinois is the same school as Muncie, Indiana, the same school in Poughkeepsie, New York. There would all be these different kinds of schools, and we would have schools that specialize maybe in science and engineering and math, or other schools would have more of a creative arts emphasis, different niches that would draw kids to the school, and that would provide, just like our universities. Our university system is the best in the world, while our public K through 12 system ranks way down the list. So if we could have enough innovation and enough a competitive marketplace inside the public sector, so every kid gets a free education still. We're not talking about a voucher program where parents have to shell out lots and lots of money and we have this two-tier system. We're talking about improving every single public school in the system. And every kid has an opportunity to embrace their education, which could mean everything in the terms of their individual lives and to the society at large. The coolest thing of all about this idea, right now, the untapped brain power of our society in the aggregate. We have all these brains, and we have all this power in each individual brain, but that's the one resource that hasn't begun to be tapped. If we could tap all this brain power of all these kids and get them to embrace education and to develop their gifts and to experience the positive effects of education, this could be a monumental change with the simplest idea of just taking whatever works. I'd like to thank you again for attending my talk, and I wish you all well.